the Conservative leadership hopeful and former cabinet minister Robert Jenrick has got heat now because of his statement on the chant of Allahu Akbar. I want to address this one because I wasn't intending to make a video on this, but it's directly related to some of the things that are going on. Let me just say right now, I think Robert Jenrick's right. And I think that his critics are being disingenuous and cynical. Disingenuous because they're not acknowledging the obvious, and cynical because they're playing party politics, certainly in the case of his political critics. So, a bit of context here. In an interview, Jenrick was condemning the violence, and he pointed out that there is an issue with policing, and he will always call out the police on that in terms of the consistency. He also very clearly said that he supported the police in terms of what they're doing to arrest people, but he made the point that when you have the mob in Birmingham, for example, shouting Allahu Akbar, then they should be arrested on sight. I agree with him. Well, that didn't stop the Muslim Council of Britain jumping in and claiming he was being Islamophobic. Angela Rayner jumped in and, claimed people like Robert Jenrick are stirring up the tensions. Lord Ahmed, a Tory peer, claimed he should apologise and move on. This is pathetic. All Robert Jenrick has done is pointed out something that a lot of people would feel uncomfortable with if you have a large group of Muslim men, and it's always men, you hardly ever see women doing this, a large group of Muslim men, some of them with balaclavas covered up, shouting Allahu Akbar. That's intimidating to non-Muslims. Now, Jenrick clarified that he understood the chant simply means God is great, and it isn't necessarily in of itself a violent chant. But in that context, when it's chanted by a large group, that is intimidating to non-Muslims, particularly when it has been used by Islamists in terrorist atrocities. So I think it's pathetic of the Muslim Council of Britain to say, "Oh, this is the same as vilifying all Muslims." They're distorting what Jenrick has said. Shame on them. I will always support politicians when I think they're in the right, regardless of what party they are. I think Jenrick's right about this. The police have to be consistent. Now, the left's attitude to this issue of police consistency, Starmer has just come out and rejected it outright. Well, that shows a slight detachment, not a slight, an obvious detachment from public opinion. I think many people do feel that the police are simply not consistent. It's been pointed out, for example, that when it comes to these far right riots, there's been immediate sentencing and jailing of people. Well, personally, I welcome that. I think they should be held to account. But it can't be denied that Labour's made a big thing of the, prison crisis, the supposed shortage of places. So how did they find 500 places for the rioters? And if you're a victim of burglary or other serious crimes, then you have to deal with the court backlog. So there's valid questions around that. One of the biggest dangers from this unrest is if legitimate debate is shut down. And I'm starting to see signs from the left of this really arrogant way of trying to shut people down. Robert Jenrick wasn't vilifying all Muslims. He was simply pointing out that to many non-Muslims, Allahu Akbar is intimidating in that context, regardless of what it means, in the context of a large mob shouting it. I don't think that's particularly peaceful. It's intimidating. So shame on the Muslim Council of Britain. I mean, they're very predictable. They've always weaponized the term Islamophobia, which is a contentious term. I think it's used to stifle debate. I prefer to use the term anti-Muslim bigotry. This week I've been to a mosque to show solidarity with innocent Muslims targeted by far-right thugs. But I'm not going to agree with any imam who says that there can be no criticism of Islamic dogma. Um, so I'm making this video to basically voice my support for Robert Jenrick. He's a Tory. I'm sure there'll be many areas I disagree with him on. But for this particular video, the specific issue I'm talking about, I think he's absolutely right. And, Rayner's just playing politics. He's a Tory. She's Labour, so she's attacking him. But if Starmer's attitude to this, taking a hard line on the riots is absolutely justified, but he cannot just dismiss issues like concerns over two-tier policing. And that's not just some invention of the far right. There's legitimate concerns out there about the consistency of policing. There is. And it's lazy to just say, oh, it's only racists who think that. This is the sort of thing that really angers people when legitimate concerns are just dismissed. It's arrogant and it's wrong, and the left need to stop doing it because it is predominantly the left that's doing it. So, summed up, I think Robert Jenrick's right. Um, Apparently, he's clarified his statement, but I hope he doesn't double down too. I mean, I hope he doesn't kind of apologize too much. That would be wrong because what he said is accurate. I mean, are we really in a situation where people think this, the sensitivities of Muslims trumps talking about real problems? It's ridiculous. And I challenge the Muslim Council of Britain to say to non-Muslims that that isn't intimidating if you get a group of men shouting that at the top of their lungs, covering their faces. You know, don't tell me that's got peaceful intentions. I know it means God is great, but if you're in public shouting that at the top of your lungs, it's a theocratic message. It's absolutely hostile to non-Muslims. So um, even if that isn't the intention, that is how people feel. So maybe they should respect other people's feelings on the matter instead of playing the victim on this issue. Um, yeah, so Robert Jenrick's right. Shame on the Muslim of Council of Britain for weaponizing this term, and Angela Rayner and Keir Starmer cannot just sweep people's concerns under the carpet, which they seem to be doing. I'm pleased they're taking a hard line on the riots, but they have to go further than that. They also have to look at simmering uh, concerns that people have. And just dismissing them and calling people racist isn't going to be the answer. Call racist racist, sure, but many, many other people have these same concerns who are not racist.